Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar titled Innovative Solutions to Design Challenges. I'm Jim Olson with the National Tile Contractors Association, and I really want to take this time to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend today's webinar, which is sponsored by Schluter Systems. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to remind you that during the webinar, you'll be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer to type in your questions, and we'll answer those questions at the end of this program. If the audio on your computer is poor, either turn up your volume or call the number on the invite to this webinar and listen on your phone. All NTCA webinars are available to watch at any time on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after the webinars are presented. This gives you easy access to watch and or share all current and past programs at your convenience. All right, I'm happy to introduce a first-time speaker on the NTCA webinars. His name is Jeremy Sobol. He's the education manager for Schluter Systems in Canada. As an education manager, Jeremy oversees Schluter's team of instructional designers and workshop coordinators. He's also responsible for educating, building industry professionals. Let me say that again. He's responsible for educating building industrial professionals on tile-related topics at Schluter's Innovation Workshop program across Canada. Jeremy joined Schluter in 2013 and has 20 years of experience in the field of instructional design and learning development. He is passionate about education for the trades and holds a Bachelor of Education from McGill University. Jeremy is a native of Montreal, Canada, where he lives with his wife, Melissa, and two daughters, Ruby and Kenzie. When not working, you can find him playing men's league hockey or skiing on winter weekends with his family. And just in his honor, I just want to make sure you see Canada, Quebec right here. I'm honoring Jeremy for this, definitely. Jeremy, thank you. Looking forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thank you for making me feel so welcome. And thank you for that introduction. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank the NTCA for providing us with this platform to speak to industry professionals. I know it's very difficult for everybody to take time out to come and spend time at these types of training events. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure this is a value-add experience for you for the next couple of hours. What Jim said at the beginning, the title of this presentation is Innovative Solutions to Design Challenges. I'm just going to turn off my camera here for the presentation so I don't distract. But what I'd like to, the theme of this presentation is really to look at, some of the common design challenges that exist, mainly in a residential context. What I've done is I've kind of cherry-picked some common issues that seem to be recurring in our industry, and I'm going to talk about viable solutions that are currently available on the market to address these challenges. And the hope is that at the end of this webinar, you'll be able to recommend viable solutions to these challenges and maybe describe a little bit about how the solution works to ultimately overcome that challenge. Or at least at the bare minimum, you'll have an awareness of these solutions, that they exist, and that you can go out and seek out more information on these particular solutions. So sometimes it's good to know a little bit about the things that we maybe aren't aware of, and at least you'll have a basis to go out and get some more information on these particular solutions. So more specifically, we're going to jump around a bit, and I can just get my computer to work here. We're going to jump around a bit, and we're going to look at some challenges that are related to profile installation. So we got a couple of challenges there that we're going to look at. Then we're going to look at some challenges related to drain installations, specifically linear drains and floor drains as well. And then we're going to finish off by discussing some new technology, some new products that are only recently introduced in North America, and those are lighted shower niches. So that's what we'll close out with. So let's jump in. So as you know, as I'm sure most people on this webinar are aware, profiles have been around for a long time, and generally speaking, there are profiles that serve a lot of particular purposes, but I think if you were to ask somebody what the general function of profiles are, they would probably say something along the lines of that they provide edge protection for the tile assembly, and maybe they might even go so far as to say they enhance the finished tile assembly, both from an aesthetic point of view, from a design point of view, but also they ensure that the assembly is durable and long-lasting, and that aesthetic is maintained over the long term. But profiles, while they have the opportunity to enhance a tile assembly, the opposite is also true. That means that if they're installed maybe without attention to detail and without care, they can actually detract from the overall aesthetic of the assembly. So you can see I have a couple of images on the screen here of some tiled corners that have been protected with profiles. Now, these two images here, I would say that they probably, well, not probably, definitely could have been installed a little bit better, especially the image on the right. It's very clear to me that the person that installed that probably either didn't have the time to take care in installing this properly. Maybe they didn't have the skill. Maybe they just didn't know what it was involved in installing the profiles. And the end result is, something less than aesthetically pleasing. Let's put it that way, which is to put it kindly, I guess. If I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I would say it's a bit of a hatchet job. But let's try to be kind. I'll try to be kind. So the other photo on the left-hand side, you can see this is a little bit better. I mean, the installer here has taken some time to miter this at a clear 45-degree angle, and they've done their best to kind of line it up with the profile, the horizontal profiles. And all things considered, this is not the worst installation I've ever seen, but it certainly could be better. So just some notable examples of some poorly installed profiles. Here's a couple of other examples. You can see here what they've done at this intersection of profiles at 3 directions is they've actually bent the profile at 90 degrees, and the end result is such that the angle, this 90-degree angle, doesn't really line up properly with the profile at the more abrupt 90 degrees, this profile that comes in on the side and is intersecting. So, these types of installations, unfortunately, they're all too common. I see them all over the place, and I'm like, there is a better way, and that's really what I want to address in the first part of this webinar, is the challenge of installing a profile corner that is aesthetically pleasing. So there is a new product or a new accessory available on the market. It's a corner accessory that is specifically designed for L-shaped profile corners. Now, the beauty of this accessory is that it provides perfect alignment for profiles that meet either at a 3-way intersection like the one that you're seeing on the slide, or at a 2-way intersection like in this assembly, which is a profile wrapping around this backsplash. So the beauty of this corner accessory is not only does it provide a clean finished edge where everything aligns perfectly, but there are components that are a part of this accessory that enable the profiles to be aligned perfectly. So for example, the profiles actually come with a pin system or a plug system that actually, if you see the back side of the profile here, the pins actually insert into a hole in the corner accessory, and then the other side of the pin inserts into the profile itself, allowing the profile to be perfectly aligned. So if I just walk through this animation here, you can see the pins that are entering into the profile. And then as I bring those profiles together in that 3-way intersection, you get a perfectly aligned corner, and you get to avoid all of the, I guess, the common installation practices that we saw in those first 2 slides. So, like I said, these types of profiles can be tricky to work with. They can be a little bit labor intensive, and they can require a little bit of time to execute properly. So what we're starting to see now on the marketplace is corner pieces, accessories that enable better overall installations of profiles. Now, that being said, profiles, it's almost a skill within a larger skill of tile setting. To set profiles in place and to do it well is a skill, and it does take time, it does take care, and it does take attention to detail to get them where they need to be so that they can actually enhance the overall tile assembly instead of detracting from it like we see here. So to summarize this first challenge and solution, well, you can clearly see the challenge on the left is to create a finished corner that doesn't rob the overall assembly from its aesthetic beauty. And the way that is overcome is by using corner accessories, such as this one that is specifically designed for an L-shaped profile to provide edge protection and also an aesthetic enhancement for the assembly overall. All right, so that's the first challenge that we're going to look at. The second challenge is minimalist tile edge protection. So what I mean by that specifically is edge protection for mitered tiles. So when we're talking about mitered tile edges, there's a lot to like about mitered tile because it is, again, speaking of aesthetics, it is very aesthetic pleasing. It's very design forward. And it has a certain amount of appeal, especially for people that might not really like the appearance of profiles. And some people don't like the appearance of profiles, to be candid about it. So they might opt to go for a miter tile to give focus to the tile assembly itself and not have a profile steal away from that focus. So there's a lot to like about the idea of a miter tile edge. However, there are a couple of challenges, or a couple of disadvantages, I should say, to this type of tile assembly. Number one, that mitered edge is vulnerable to damage because it doesn't contain any kind of mechanism in there to prevent it from being damaged when it's exposed to normal amounts of wear and tear. The other disadvantage is that mitered edge can create a very sharp edge. So in the photo that you're looking at here, this is a niche that's being installed in a shower. This is a wet area, and we know that in a wet area, people can be prone to slipping and falling, and that could result in coming into contact with a very sharp edge, and it could result in injury, and of course, we don't want to see anything like that. So the challenge with mitered tile edges is how do you reconcile this desire for the design requirement, the aesthetic appeal of no profile or no seam from tile to tile, with the need for a durable overall tile assembly, and also there's the safety aspect to consider. So for example, you can see here in this photo, this is a miter tile in a relatively new assembly, I might add. I took this photo at an airport lounge, a recently opened airport lounge about a week ago, and already I noticed several locations on this assembly where the tile was starting to become damaged, presumably due to normal wear and tear. So the solution to overcoming this challenge and reconciling that need to maintain the aesthetic while providing durability to the overall assembly are profiles that provide discrete edge protection for mitered tile edges. So what you're looking at here on this slide is a couple of cutaways of a couple of different profiles that are available on the marketplace that do just that. So you can see in this example on the right-hand side, this orange actually represents the cutaway or the profile of the profile, where the main portion of the profile itself is hidden inside the tile assembly with only the slightest beveled reveal where the corner is exposed, thereby providing protection to the weak point of the tile. The same thing with this example over here, another example of a type of edge protection that is available currently on the market. So if we take the if we get rid of the 2D cutaway drawing and we look at this 3D illustration and we look at sort of the general parts, the general components of this type of profile, you have the anchoring leg. This is the portion of the profile that's hidden underneath the tile with the perforations that allow thinset to bleed through the profile and ultimately lock that profile into place in the finished assembly. And then you can see over here the portion of the profile that leads to the revealed edge is at a 45-degree angle. So a tile is installed on either side of this reveal. And then there's the protective edge itself that can withstand any impacts and ultimately prevent the tile from becoming damaged through normal exposure to wear and tear. And this is what it would look like in a finished assembly. So you can see, again, a couple of real life examples of those two cutaways that I just showed you. Outside corner, tile on either side, and you can see the reveal itself is quite minimal in the overall assembly. So that's an example of protection that provides the most minimal of reveals, but it doesn't really address the situation where you could be at risk of creating a sharp edge, especially if you consider an outside corner, for example, that where there's an intersection of three profiles that come together. With this type of profile, it is possible that you could create a very pointed corner. And again, in a wet area, say for example, the corner of a bench that was exposed inside of a shower, you could end up with a very pointed edge. So there are other options available with slightly larger reveals that also accommodate bevel tiles and that do provide advantages both, again, from an aesthetic standpoint, but also from a safety standpoint. So I'll just take a sec to explain that. But before I do, I just want to point out the key difference between the profile that we just looked at, which is this one up here on the top. You can see with this example, the profiles or the tiles themselves have been mitered all the way through, whereas the profile at the bottom, even though it has a slightly larger reveal, it's still small enough to enable the partial beveling of the tile itself. One of the advantages of this type of profile is that the profile allows the factory edge of the tile to be maintained. So there's no time spent preparing that edge, polishing it, making it look good so it appears aesthetically pleasing in the final assembly. So that's one advantage of this type of profile. And here in this slide, you can see the difference in terms of the shape. Still a very small reveal relative to the first one we looked at, but overall, it's you can see here the factory edge of that tile is maintained. So that could be an advantage. It could be a time savings for the installer. And on top of that, this type of profile also comes with corner accessories that enable a very good looking finished corner at either a two-way intersection of two profiles, or in the case that we're looking at here on screen, this is a three-way intersection. And obviously that point right here at that corner, definitely not as sharp as a point that you would see with some of the other profiles. So I know we're talking about discrete edge protection for mitered tile edges, and I know this photograph demonstrates a bold contrast between the profile color itself and the tile. And that would not really be considered discrete in a final assembly, but it's also important to be aware that these profiles do come in a variety of colors and finishes and heights, and they're all designed to match up with the latest tile trends so that we can actually create that discrete protected look that we might be looking for as part of the design requirement. So here's an example of that in a finished assembly. You can see here in this tiled bookcase, the profile is installed at the corner. And if I zoom in, you can see how the profile matches up quite a bit better with this tile as opposed to the example you saw in the slide a couple of slides ago. And another example. This example, it's the smaller reveal of the two examples that I showed you. I'm not sure that I'm personally crazy about that style of tile, but to each their own. That's very much a subjective point of view. And if you zoom in, you can see that edge protection, very discreet, but doing its job, protecting the tile and ensuring the long-term durability of this particular assembly. Okay, so just to summarize then, the challenge, again, is to reconcile the design requirement for mitered tiles, but also taking into account the long-term durability of the assembly. And depending on the situation, depending on the application we're talking about, we could be taking into account things from a safety perspective as well. Okay, so mitered tiles or mitered tile edge profiles can help achieve that or overcome that challenge. All right, let's get into the next challenge, which is customizable linear drains. What's that about? Well, we all know, or I'm assuming, well, maybe I shouldn't assume, but I will say that linear drains have been around for some time now, and they seem to be gaining more and more popularity with each passing year. They're becoming trendy. They have high-end appeal. They look great. And what they do is they open up an increased amount of design possibilities, because with linear drains, we can use large format tile on the shower base, because we're either sloping towards the drain on a single plane or a dual plane. So it makes it much easier to use large format tile on the shower floor. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't use a large format tile if you're dealing with a point drain. I see some incredible stuff out there, people making making envelope cuts to use large format tile with point drains, but that does take a little bit of skill, and it does take a little bit of time to do that. With a linear drain using a large format tile, it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to, or easy, relatively speaking, to get that to marry up to your linear drain. So linear drains, they're trendy and they're in demand. But talking about challenges now when it comes to linear drains, and this first one that I'm going to talk about really is sort of a design challenge more than anything. Personal preferences, anecdotally from people I've talked to, my own personal preference, and general best practices, again, most people I talk to, the thinking is that for these drains to really enhance the overall design and enhance the overall aesthetic, they should, as much as possible, span the full width of the shower enclosure, as much as is possible. When you have space at either end, it can detract from the overall aesthetic, and there's also a functional aspect too, in that depending on the size of the drain itself, the width of the drain, it could lead to standing water in between uses at the shower, and some people might not like that. So there is that aesthetic challenge, that design challenge that comes with these types of drains. A lot of the manufacturers of linear drains out there, they offer their linear drains, their channel bodies and their grates in predetermined lengths in increments. In the case of Schluter, Schluter offers them in 4-inch increments all the way up to 72. Now, if you need to get your linear drain to span the full width of the assembly, this could pose challenges, right? Because it might require the installer to build out the wall so that the finished wall arrives directly adjacent to the channel body and grate, or in a more extreme case, it could require complete repositioning of the wall during installation. So if the design requirement is that the linear drain span the shower enclosure from side to side, there needs to be care taken to ensure that the wall is built out to the exact or the enclosure is built out to the exact dimensions of that linear drain. The other challenge in dealing with linear drains, when the downspout is connected to the channel body, it's not removable or it's not adjustable. If you're dealing with a shower enclosure where the plumbing, for example, is say off center, that linear drain might not be compatible in that environment. Now, moving the plumbing, that may not be a big deal in some cases, right? Because you can open up the floor, cut the ABS or the PVC and reposition the plumbing, no big deal. But in some situations, it could be a big deal. So for example, if there was a joist that was in the way, that's a whole other discussion about how to modify the joist, and it might require engineering considerations. So all of these things could lead to problems. At the very least, it creates added time to the overall assembly, even in the the best case scenario where it's there's nothing obstructing the plumbing underneath the floor to prevent an easy adjustment so that it lines up with that with the center line of the drain. Nonetheless, it could be a installation challenge when it comes down to it. So the solution to overcome these challenges, these linear drain challenges, is customizable linear drains that are trimmable on site, and they can match the exact shower width. The other aspect of these customizable linear drains is that the plumbing connection components are not connected to the channel and the channel opening itself. So they can be positioned accordingly, and the channel opening can be positioned over those plumbing connection components, such as the downspout and the flange. So let's take a closer look at that. So trimmable on-site. So there are many trimmable linear drains or customizable linear drains out there. The ones that we have in the photo here, these are made out of stainless steel, and they're cut with tools that are appropriate for stainless steel. In this case, a hacksaw with a miter box and a grinder with an appropriate blade for cutting the stainless steel set to low speed. Now, depending on how much of the channel body and the grate you cut off, if you cut off an asymmetrical amount. So for example, if you were to take off 6 inches off of one side of that channel body and say 12 inches off the other, well, all of a sudden you've taken this opening and it's no longer centered. So it gives you the ability to offset that opening so that you can align it with the plumbing, with the existing plumbing, and you're not forced into a situation where you have to call in a plumber potentially and have them relocate the plumbing. So I'll run through a little exercise in a couple slides that shows you how you would actually calculate for an offset plumbing scenario. So as I said in the previous slide, depending on where you position the opening of the channel body to allow water to escape the drain, you can position it perfectly centered or slightly off-centered, or even to one extreme of this drain. So having a separate plumbing connection component allows you this flexibility, and it allows for easy offset drainage. So speaking of the plumbing connection components, what you're looking at here on screen is a flange. This flange provides flexible placement. It's not very big, so you have a lot of flexibility in how you position this in the shower. And it contains an integrated waterproof collar, which is handy because it connects very easily with topically waterproofing sheet membranes, such as the one you see on screen. It also offers up flexibility in that you can use it in conjunction with a prefabricated tray with integrated waterproofing, but you could also use dry pack and have a mortar bed inside that shower enclosure, and you could tie it into that mortar bed, no problem. The downspout, which is affixed to the bottom of the drain, actually sits inside the recess in the flange and helps to guide the water into the plumbing. At the end of the day, helps evacuate that water from the shower assembly. So I said we'd go through a quick and simple exercise to show you how you would take the components with this type of system and you would align it in an offset scenario. So for the purpose of our exercise here, we're going to assume that our shower enclosure measures 72 inches wide. We're also going to assume in this scenario that our plumbing, our existing plumbing, is about 44 inches from the left-hand side wall. So it's not sitting smack dab in the middle of our shower enclosure. But that's okay, because we have an adjustable linear drain that we're going to install in this scenario. So in order to make sure that that opening aligns with our existing plumbing, we're going to measure 44 inches from the center of the channel body. We're going to ultimately end up trimming 4 inches from the left side of the channel. Now, this is all assuming or predicated on the idea that this channel body here is 96 inches in length. On the other side, we're going to need to trim the remainder of 72 minus 44 off of the channel body itself. And that means we're going to take 20 inches off of the right-hand side of the channel body to ultimately end up with a channel body that measures 72 inches, which is the width of the finished shower enclosure. And that's how we go through the process of aligning our our channel body, and the hole in the middle of the channel body that allows the water to evacuate in an offset situation. So a little bit of mental math there. And this is what you end up with in real life. A beautiful finished drain that spans the full width of the shower enclosure. All right. So the solution to this challenge of the design aesthetic, the having the channel body and the grate extend the full width of the shower and aligning the evacuation point in that channel body with the existing plumbing, is to use a trimmable linear drain. All right, moving on. In this next section, we're going to look at floor drains, specifically drains for non-sloped floors. So this could be an application where you might find this, could be in a wet room, could be in a laundry room, could be in a basement, could be in a kitchen, anywhere where it's reasonable to expect that the floor might see water on a regular basis, a semi-regular basis, or in an emergency situation in terms of a flood, and we just need to get the water out of there. So these are all examples of spaces where that might be the case. Challenges that exist with floor drains, depending on the type of system you're using or the type of components you're using, could result in placement limitations, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. And some of them, depending again on the system that you're using or the components that you're using, may not easily tie into waterproof connections in the event that we need to have a fully waterproofed floor. So for example, if it's a second floor laundry room, and we want to make sure that any water that could leak out of the washing machine in an emergency situation, that water is contained in that laundry room, doesn't damage building materials underneath that space, doesn't damage the living space beneath that laundry room. So one of the challenges or the limitations of some of these types of drains is they don't necessarily tie into the waterproofing materials readily or easily. So let's look at that a little bit closer. So the challenge of overcoming placement limitations, well, again, depending on the type of component that you're using, it might not be possible to use a bonding flange drain in this type of application where the drain is placed inside a corner or wall adjacent, simply because the radius of the bonding flange is going to prevent us from getting that drain right up against the wall or right into that corner. As you can see here, in this very crude illustration that I have on screen, the bonding flange would not allow the drain grate to sit right up against the wall because it is offset from that corner, just as it would be from the wall. So that's what I mean by a placement limitation. The solution are floor drains with flexible waterproof collars. So whereas this type of bonding flange here, this is a very rigid bonding flange made out of it, or the example you're looking at on the screen here, this is an ABS bonding flange. They're not intended to be cut to be put into a corner or against the wall. So the solution, as I said, would be to use a drain with a flexible waterproof collar. Not only does it allow you to install this drain right up against a wall or a corner, but because it has that waterproof collar, it integrates very easily with other waterproof membranes that you may have in place in this underneath the tiled floor, such as an uncoupling membrane, which is an uncoupling membrane, but one of the functions of the uncoupling membrane is that it is also waterproof, given that it is made out of polypropylene. Here in the corner, here's another example of that. So that flexible collar out in the front that sits out on the uncoupling membrane, it is bonded to the uncoupling membrane using thinset. And what we've done here is we've used a piece of sheet membrane band to make our floor to wall waterproof connection. And then what we've used again is a prefabricated or preformed corner to ensure that, and we've actually cut out a hole here to accommodate the drain so that we have a fully waterproof corner which connects to the banding at the floor to wall connection and the collar of the drain itself. Tile is installed on top of that, and then the drain grate is inserted into the recess in the floor. Okay, and ultimately you end up with a situation like this, a drain adjacent to the wall that is fully tied into the waterproofing in the rest of that space, whether that's a laundry room, whether it's underneath the dishwasher, or it's just in some kind of space that may see water on a regular basis. And the advantage of putting a drain up against the wall or in a corner is that if you want it to be discreet, out of sight, the closer you can get it to the wall in most cases, the better, the more discreet that it is. Okay, so again, the solution to this challenge is a floor drain with a flexible waterproof collar, which is attached to the drain body itself. All right. Now to close it up, we're going to talk about lighted shower niches. This is a new technology that it's been introduced in the North American market very recently, actually, within the last couple of months. So, when we think about shower design and bathroom design, there was a time not so long ago, mid-century, where we thought about bathrooms very differently. We thought about how we use the space very differently. We used to think of them as primarily functional spaces where we go, where we would use these spaces for hygiene. We would go to do our business, brush our teeth, shave, whatever we had to do, and we would get out. The spaces were designed oftentimes in a very utilitarian style to meet the functional requirements needed for everyday use. But as our thinking evolved and as design practices evolved, and we started to think about how we use these spaces a little bit differently. So now when we design a bathroom, it's very common today to think about using this space as an area where we would go to relax, where we would go to for our own well-being, our own self-care. We tend to think of bathroom environments as a spa in your home or a spa-like environment inside the home. So in order to meet the demands, that customers and clients are demanding, the challenge is to offer customized design so that we can achieve these spa-like environments or provide these spa-like environments to our customers. So from a design perspective, if you're on the design side of the house, you want to be able to present everything that you can to your customers and have them appreciate the space once you're done with it. If you're on the installation side of the ledger, well, then it's also a good idea for you to be aware of the options that are available and certainly know where you can go to learn how to install them, and be aware that this is something that you might be asked to do. So that's the challenge with this type of, or that's my spin anyway. That's the challenge with this type of product. So one of the options that we can use to create ambient light in a bathroom environment to help enhance the environment, to create these spa-like feelings, is lighted shower niches that come in ready-to-tile kits. So there you go. There's a quick little video. I'll play that again because if you blinked, you might have missed it. But these types of kits have an LED strip contained inside the body of the niche. The nice thing about these kits is that they're designed to integrate with other shower system components, and they're fully backed by the manufacturer from a warranty perspective. All of the parts and pieces contained in these kits have been approved by electrical codes, and as I said, they are backed by manufacturer warranty. And as I said, they integrate very easily with other shower system components. So it's part of a larger system, and it can be considered an optional component to be offered up to your clients. So the niche itself comes with a lighted LED strip, which is installed in a shadow gap type profile, which is installed at the top of the niche itself. Actually, I'll mention this at the back. You can see on the back of the niche, it contains a connection box. That is a watertight connection box that connects to a low voltage cable, which I'll talk about in a second. So these shower niches, they're available in multiple sizes, and there are several components. There's the kit itself, which, as I said, comes with the LED strip. It comes with the niche, it comes with the connection box and those types of components. There are also cables available that are specifically designed to lock into the connection box and make the connection to the LED strip. So there are multiple cable lengths available. And then there are a couple of power supply and driver options. So there's a close-up image of the back of the niche. So you can see this is a fully waterproof connection box, and this comes pre-installed. So there's no assembly required on the part of the installer at this stage. This comes out of the box already installed. There is low voltage cables that are part of this kit that come equipped with a snap-in gland. And this is, again, designed to be an integrated system. All of the parts and pieces are designed to work together in one system. And these cables are rated for in-wall installation. They're low voltage, they're 24, and I already mentioned they're available in multiple cable lengths, depending on where the position of the niche is in relation to the dimmer. So with regard to the power supply now, there are a couple of different options here. The first one is an all-in-one dimmer switch. This is pretty straightforward. You have your power supply coming from your electrical panel or a power source, 120 volts, which feeds your dimmer switch. From the dimmer switch, you have a low voltage cable, that 24 volt cable that I talked about, runs outside of the dimmer and into the niche to ultimately power the LED. The other option is a dimmer switch and driver combination. So again, with this type of system, you have the AC power, 120 volt, which feeds your dimmer. Out of your dimmer, you will also have a 120 volt cable, or wire, which leads to your driver. And then from your driver, you have your 24 volt cable, which actually feeds the light or powers the LED light inside the dimmer. So it begs the question, why are two options provided for this type of system? Well, what it boils down to is it's a design requirement. The all-in-one dimmer switch, it's great, it's a simpler approach, but if the design requirement was such that you wanted your dimmers to match with the other dimmers in the house, you can see in this case here, the one that I've circled, you have mismatched controls. That could be a problem for some people. They might not like the look of that. The dimmer and driver combo, for example, what that does is that allows you to select the dimmer of your choice so that you can match it up with other dimmers in the house, and then you use the driver as an intermediate where you actually run your 120 volt cable into the driver, and the output of that is your 24 volt low voltage cable. So the only thing with the driver itself is that the driver has to be installed in an accessible location. It can't be buried in the wall. It needs to be, inside a cabinet, or it could be inside a closet, but it does need to be accessible. So it's a little bit more complicated, but if this is a consideration, if matching the controls is a consideration for the homeowner, this would be the way to go. Okay. All right, so the last challenge and solution that we're looking at here is the challenge is to be aware of the different types of options that you can offer your customers to create one-of-a-kind custom bathroom spaces. And one of the options is a niche with lighted LED technology integrated into the system. So just to recap, the design challenge and the available solution. So clean corners, we saw that profiles can be a finicky business. It's a skill within a skill, and oftentimes where we see the most egregious examples of poor installations is at corners. As you see here in the image, the available solution is a corner piece or corner accessory specifically designed for L-shaped profiles and edge protection. The other profile we looked at was profiles that are designed for miter tiles that have that very, very slim reveal that allow you to miter the tile. So you get again to reconcile that design requirement with the durability of the overall assembly. And then with linear drains, with customizable trimmable linear drains, you can get your linear drain to span the full width of the shower enclosure, and you can align it relatively easy with existing plumbing locations. Then there's the floor drains that you could be limited by the placement of that floor drain. And if there's a need to tie waterproofing in from the drain into waterproofing that exists on the rest of the floor. So, in the event of a flood, that water can be contained and directed down the drain. The example would be, or the solution to that challenge would be a floor drain with a integrated flexible waterproof collar. And then you have the last one that we just looked at was the bathroom lighting. The challenge is always to provide our customers and our clients with the best option to create those customized one-of-a-kind spaces, because people want custom. People want something that suits their specific set of requirements and their specific tastes. So this is something that could provide that. Okay, so that is what I wanted to present to you today, and I'd like to open the floor. Or Jim, I hope you've been getting some questions, and I'll do my best to answer for the group.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about edge trims, one of the questions was in regards to stair nosing. And if the sides of the stair is open and the client only wants the face profile, do you have an end for the open sides?
The end for the open, so we're talking about now the profile with the thinner reveal. Is that what we're?
Well, we're talking about a stair nosing.
Yep.
And if they have like open-ended steps, there's not walls on each side, they're open-ended.
Right. Yes, absolutely. There are profiles. I mean, not related to the profiles that we just discussed, but there are specific stair nosing profiles that do exist, that do come with accessory pieces that can wrap around the open side of the stair and hide the tread of the stair. Absolutely. And all of those profiles are detailed on our website at schluter.com, where you can go to see the different options that exist for stair profiles.
So this is a question in regards to using your change of plane. Is it preferable to incorporate a quad deck or a rond deck profile for outside corners that change of plane?
For an outside corner, that's a design choice. The rond deck is a rounded reveal. The quad deck is more of a cubic reveal, in my opinion, probably a more contemporary look. But they both serve the same purpose, and that they provide edge protection, and they do provide outside corners, and there are accessories for both.
Great. Would you need to install the corner accessory as when a contractor is installing the full stick, or can they be installed after the tile is dry? Good. Does it need to be done at the same time, or can they be done later?
I would say best practice is to do it all at the same time. And I know, corner pieces and those types of accessories, especially the ones that we have that don't have the pins, they can be a little bit finicky. And what we tell people is that when you use one of those corner pieces and you're inserting it into the recess to accommodate the edge of the piece, put a little bit of thin set in there to stop it from shifting around. But at the same time, even once you put the thin set in there, there is still a little bit of give. A tip that was brought to my attention that I find actually works really well is to use a little bit of hot glue. So you can use a little bit of hot glue. It sets up real quick and it holds it in there nice and snug. You can put a little bit of thin set over top of the, on the back of the profile. So when that hardens up, it'll further allow the corner piece to sit in there snugly and securely. I mean, if it was going to be installed afterwards, you run the risk of getting a little bit of thin set in there, and that it could prevent the corner piece from being inserted. So I have to say, generally, I can't see that being a good practice, but I mean, in some situations, maybe it could work. But I would recommend installing it at the same time you install the profile.
Okay. Something about 2-inch down the riser, someone made a comment. I don't know what that was in regards to.
There are different stair profiles. There's one, for example, the proprietary name is Sheen Step, and that comes in a couple of different sizes, and it'll actually, there are different heights to it. So depending on the one that you choose, the bull nose of the stair, if if I'm understanding what the comment was, depending on the thickness of the riser, the bull nose, you would select the appropriate height to hide the full bull nose of the stair, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Again, if anybody wants to look that up on Schluter.com, it's Sheen Step is the profile that you would look for.
How does the linear drain connect to the waste pipe in a depressed concrete application with a mortar bed floor?
How does the, okay, so there is, let me go back here. So the flange, yeah, I gotta go back, sorry. You know what? Better to do it this way. So the flange you can see is supported. So whether this is on a wood subfloor or whether it's a depressed concrete, the flange itself sits on top of this foam flange support. This is all held together using thinset. I actually don't have a photo of it in this presentation, but basically thinset is inserted between the polypropylene flange and the foam support. Thinset is also placed underneath the support itself, and that holds the assembly together, if that answers the question.
All right. Let's see. Does the tray for the linear tray have open ends? Is it therefore dependent on waterproofing on the wall?
It does have open ends, yes. So the integrated waterproofing is only on the top portion of the linear drain. So yes, anywhere where water, the rule is anywhere where there would be exposed foam or even tile installed over top of that foam, of course, we would recommend that you waterproof the side of the tray because it is exposed on the sides.
All right. Let's see here. It's all the same here. So here we go. How many diodes per inch for the niche lighting? Is it mid-spectrum?
You might have stumped me on that one. Are we? Yeah, I'd have to check the data sheet for that information.
And they can go to schluter.com and find that information?
Yeah, certainly all of our data sheets are available for download. So if you, the proprietary name for the product itself is Curdy Board SNLT. SNLT stands for Shower Niche Liprotect Technology. So if you do a search for that, you'll be taken to the product page, at which point you can access all of the downloads, including all of our data sheets and all of the specs for that particular question.
Jeremy, do you have a technical hotline or a phone number people can call?
We have our customer service hotline, and they're very well versed in technical aspects of all of our products. Yes, I should track that down, but I don't have it in front of me. But again, if you go on the site, all of that information is absolutely available. Very easy to find under the contact us website.
Although I've been watching the whole time, I have a question here on the lighted shower niches.
Yep.
You show the light on the short sides of any of the rectangulars. Can it be on the long side? Can you move that to the long side?
So right now, what we say is that the light has to be installed at the top of the niche. We don't want to see any water penetration.
No.
Not that we anticipate.
I get that it needs to be at the top. But if you were to put a niche in rectangular so it goes left to right longer than up and down, can it be on the long side at the top?
Right now, all of the niches come with the connection box positioned at the short side of the niche.
Yeah, that's what I was. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer for that.
Yeah,
So, we got one more question that just came in. Should a certified electrician complete the niche wiring?
A qualified person should be tasked with any electrical connections.
Okay, good. Well, Jeremy, that was great and a lot of new stuff and great design ideas. I really appreciate it, and I know our audience did too. I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of our audience for being here today, taking the time to spend an hour with us. That's great. Thank you all, and have a great week and a great weekend. We will have our next webinar. I believe it will not be until, October 3rd. look for the invite, and thank you all. Thank you, Jeremy.
All right. Thank you, Jim, and thank you everybody for coming. I appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.